Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video. Now the championship season for Coventry City anyway is over. The season has finished, but what I thought we'd do to keep the content going is we're going to rank all of the Coventry City players this season. We'll do it in a bit of a tier list. So let's get into this. So then what I'll be doing is I'll be putting all of the Coventry City players into 5 categories. As you can see here on the left, we have player of the season at the top there. I'll only be putting one player there. We then have grade A, grade B, grade C, and obviously for the players that haven't done so well, grade D. As you can see, I've got 22 players scattered along the bottom here. I haven't featured everyone who's played because there has been a few players that have had a few minutes for us, but I'm just putting in the main players from this season. So then we'll start with the goalkeepers. We'll start down here with Marco Morosi, who was the #1 goalkeeper from last season. Now, he was the #1 goalkeeper at the start of this season, but about 10 games in, he fractured his eye socket and was out for quite a while. Ben Wilson, the backup goalie, came in, and because Ben Wilson did such a good job, it's been quite a hard season for Morosi to get back into the starting 11. He has made a few appearances throughout the season, but it's just been a bit of chopping and changing between the keepers. So with Marco Morosi, I'm going to give him a C. Now, I probably would have given Marco Morosi a B if he'd made a few more appearances, but because he's only played about, 20 games this season, I'm just going to stick him in C. Next then, we have the backup goalkeeper from the start of the season, which was Ben Wilson. I'm actually going to give him a B. I'm going to stick him there. I think Ben Wilson's had a pretty solid season. Now, don't get me wrong, there probably isn't a lot between these two keepers. If I put it in a poll on the Facebook fans forum, I think it'd be a 50-50 split. Some people like Morosi, some people like Wilson. I'd say I like them roughly the same, but I'm just going to put Wilson ahead because for me, he's been a little bit more of a standout. I personally say they're probably about the same ability, but this season, I'm going to say Wilson's just won it for me. I think Morosi was definitely the better goalkeeper last season because he played all the games, but Wilson's just going to get a B. Made some good saves. Obviously, that one away at Stoke, what a save that was. And yeah, I'm going to put him in B. I do think Coventry City probably do need to invest in another goalie, but I'm going to stick Ben Wilson in B. So then, we'll move on to the outfield players. We won't do them in any particular order. They are in a random order down here. So let's start with Jordan Shipley. Now, obviously, he's been with us for a few years now. He came through the Coventry City Academy. I've got a lot of time for Jordan Shipley. I think out of all the players, he cares the most for the badge on his shirt. He is so passionate, and I'm not saying that as a dig to any of the others, but he's just so Coventry City, isn't he? As for his season, he hasn't really featured much. I think through the years, he's kind of been involved less and less. Last year, he was a bit more of a rotation. The season before, he played a bit more, but this season, he really hasn't had too much game time. That said, when he does play, he does chip in with a couple goals, but there has been questions over his championship quality. Obviously, the step up to the championship is massive from League 2 and League 1. It's going to be tricky. I'm thinking C or B. I'm going to go for C for Jordan Shipley. Really close to a B for me because he has chipped in with goals towards the end of the season, but he just hasn't played enough to get into the top 3 tiers for me. Next up then, we have another midfielder. I think that's Jamie Allen. I can't see these pictures very clearly. But Jamie Allen, a bit like Shipley, he hasn't really had too much game time. I'd say he has had more than Shipley, but he's kind of faded in and out of the squad through the season. And for me, you can't really be the player of the season or an A if you're going to do that. As for what he's done when he's on the field, he's been okay. He does come in for a tiny bit of criticism in some of the Facebook fans forums, but I'm going to give Jamie Allen... Oh, this is tough. I'm just going to give him a B. He's had a little bit more game time than Shipley, so I suppose he has made a few more contributions, but it's a tricky one. For Jamie Allen, it's between a C or a B. Now, next up down there, we have Amadou Bakayoko, obviously the striker. I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry, but it's going to have to be a D. Obviously, he's been with us for a few years now. I believe he is going to be going this summer, and it's probably the right decision. I've got nothing against him, and I don't think too many of the fans do. He does get a lot of criticism, but when you step up to the championship, you really need to come to terms with it pretty quick. And he's had a few appearances, hasn't had many to be fair to him, but he hasn't made any major contributions. I don't think he even scored this season, so he's going to go in D. Now, next up, I've got Maxime Biamou, and I'm pretty sad that he's going to be going this summer. I'm going to give him a B. I'm going to give him a B. I think the thing is, since Biamou's been here, he's never been the main striker. He's always the second or third choice striker. And he works quite well as a player that you can play off. I think he gets quite a few assists as well. And he has had times where he's had to be the goal scorer when Walker and Godden were both injured. Biamou had to step in. He chips in with a couple of goals, but he's never going to be a sort of first choice striker. So I wish him luck. Biamou's a great player, a great guy. but I'm going to put him in B. Now, next up, we have Fankati Dabo, arguably the player of the season for last year. I think he was the official player of the year. For me, it was Liam Walsh last year. But anyway, for Dabo this season, it's been a frustrating one. Injuries have really plagued him, and I probably would put him in as an A if he'd played more, but he has been hit with a lot of injuries, so I'm going to put him in B. I think the injuries really are frustrating for him because he seems to have a couple each season, and obviously he's a great player, got a lot of potential. I really want to put him in A, but I'm just going to put him in B because he hasn't had that much game time. Next up, we've got Julian Da Costa, the next right back. I'm going to stick him in C. I think he comes in for a tiny bit of criticism, but I do mostly like him. I think what he offers that Dabo doesn't sometimes is he's quite good going forwards, and he really has got a good cross on him. Probably one of the best crossers that we've got in our team. He really does get forwards quite well and whips the ball in. Defensively, he's okay. He has, like I said, come in for a bit of criticism, but I do like Da Costa. I'll stick him in C. I think he will be around next season, so let's hope he steps it up again. We've got Kyle McFadzean next. This is tricky. I'm going to go for B. I don't want to keep putting them all in B, but that's just how I feel. Kyle McFadzean is a B for me. I think he's been pretty solid this year. Obviously, he does come with a few mistakes. The fans do know that, but he does bring a lot of experience. He is definitely the most experienced centre-back. And yeah, he really has been pretty solid this season when he's not making mistakes. He's chipped in with a couple goals this season. I don't think he'd scored last season, but he got 2 goals this year. 1 or 2 own goals and a couple of penalties given away. But like I said, it's the experience that he brings. He's a calm, composed, experienced head, and that's why we need him. Now, next up, we've got Sam McCallum. Obviously, we had him last year. He's obviously been on a loan back from Norwich this year. It's tricky for McCallum. Obviously, at the start of the season, he had a lot of competition on for his position because we had Ryan Giles. But since Ryan Giles left, it's been pretty easy for McCallum to get into the team because we don't have too many left-backs, do we? I don't want to keep doing this, but I'm going to put McCallum in B as well. I think he's had quite a lot of game time. He does bring quite a bit to us. But yeah, it's tricky. I don't think he's a C. I don't think he's an A. I'm going to stick him in B, which for me is basically like a player who's been fairly consistent through the whole season. And like I say, yeah, he's young. He's got potential. He could do bits for Norwich. I think he'll be going back to them this summer. Obviously, they're in the Premier League. I don't know how much game time he'll get in the Prem. Probably not a lot. But if they were to come back down, he might get a bit of action in the Championship for them. Now, next up, we have another young player, Josh Eccles, who's obviously made only a few appearances this year. He's obviously quite young. He's a midfielder. I'm going to stick him in C. I think he has been pretty decent, pretty lively when he comes on. He'll get a goal soon. I don't think he has scored for us yet, but he will get a goal soon. He seems quite lively, like I said. He had a shot at QPR, which I can remember would have been a great goal if that had gone in. But yeah, he just brings something else. And I think when you've got some centre mids that might have an off day, he's a player to bring on. He'll just bring loads of energy. And yeah, it's been a fairly decent first season for him. Let's see what he does next year. Next up, Matty Godden, another player who's been hit with a lot of injuries. I genuinely think I would put Matty Godden in A if he hadn't hit so many injuries this year. I'm going to stick him in B. I think when he's been around, he does chip in with the goals. I think you know what you're going to get from him. If you start him in about 5 games, you're guaranteed to at least get 2 or 3 goals, I think. I think he roughly gets a goal every 2 or 3 games that he plays. Ruthless from the penalty spot. I don't think he's missed a penalty for us yet. Touch wood. And yeah, obviously a player to keep next year. I think he's 29 or 30 now, so he's still got it, but I don't know how many more years he can cut it in the Championship. Next up then, we've got Gustavo Hamer, and at the start of the season, he probably would have been my player of the season, but I'm going to put him in A. I think through the year, he's kind of faded out a little bit, but still been very, very good and a very, very good signing. His value will have gone up a lot as he's now got a year of Championship experience under his belt. He's still quite young, to be fair to him. I do forget that I think he's still in his early 20s, so he is still going to develop. He is going to get better. But yeah, it's very hard when you come from overseas doing a first full year in something like the Championship, because the Championship is a very tough, arduous league. It's going to be very hard for players like that to adapt. He did do very well at the start of the season, chipped in with quite a few key goals, but I think A is fair for Gustavo Hamer. Now, next up, we've got another centre-back, Dom Hyam, another player who's been with us for quite a few years. This is tricky. I'm going to put him in B. I promise I won't try and put too many more players in B, but Dom Hyam does get a B for me. I think if I put most of the players in B, it means they've been pretty solid through the season. Yeah, Dom Hyam, he has been that, to be honest. He has been pretty solid. He's had 1 or 2 mistakes, but all of the centre-backs have. It's a pretty unforgiving league, isn't it, the Championship? If you make the step up from League 1 and League 2, like Dom Hyam has, you'll find that he has to be a bit sharper with his passes. The pace of the game is just so much quicker, and it's a harder division. So he's done okay. He's got a year of championship experience under his belt, and I think he'll be around next year, and he'll push on even more. Now, next up, we've got Castaneer. I'm sorry, but you'll go next to Bakayoko in D. He just really hasn't played, has he? I'd imagine he'll be released in the summer as well. He just hasn't really done anything for us. I think last year he got the 1 goal in his first appearance and then kind of faded out. And this year he hasn't really done anything. Like I say, to be fair to him, he hasn't had much game time, but when he has played, he just doesn't really offer a lot. He's physical. I'll give him that. He's physical, but he's quite aggressive at the same time. So I'll put him in D, and good luck to him wherever he goes. Next up, Liam Kelly. Another player hit by injuries, but I'm not going to put him in B. I'm going to put Liam Kelly in A. I think he's been solid. Whenever he's playing, he has been solid. He doesn't come in for much criticism, and that is exactly right because he does not make many mistakes. He's still cutting it. You know, he's another player who's been with us from League 2 and League 1, and he really is making the step up each year. He chipped in with a couple of crucial goals this year, didn't he? He got the 2 goals at Wycombe. And obviously, when he wasn't playing, we really could tell. But that leads on perfectly to the next player, Matty James, who kind of came in January as a replacement for Liam Kelly. And it's kind of been a battle between those two as who's going to be starting. I think they're quite good when they start together, actually. Now, Matty James arguably could be player of the season if he'd been here since the summer. But obviously, he's only been here for half of the season. He's so good though, isn't he? You can just tell he knows how the championship works. I'm going to put him in A. I know he's been here for half a year, but I'm going to put Matty James in A. I just think he's that good. He's so good, isn't he, Matty James? He's experienced. He's won the league with Leicester before, and obviously Coventry City will be desperate to try and get him back in the summer. I'd imagine his price tag and his wages will be pretty expensive. Although, if I think about it, I think Leicester... I think his contract's running out in the summer, so we could try and get him. But like I say, his wages will be pretty expensive. But Matty James, he's definitely getting an A for me. Now, next up, we have Josh Pask. He's not bad, to be honest. But I'm going to put him in C just because of the lack of game time. I think if he had more game time, Josh Pask would probably pick up a B because I think he's actually pretty solid. He's really good defensively. I suppose going forwards, he's not as good as Da Costa or Dabo, but I think defensively, Josh Pask is really solid, and I'll definitely keep hold of him. I think he's quite versatile as well. I think if you want him to, he can play left back. If you want him to, he can play centre back. So that's something we really need at Coventry because sometimes we just get plagued with injuries. So yeah, I'd keep Josh Pask, fairly solid from him, but he just hasn't played much. Next up, Michael Rose, centre-back from last year, who I gave an A. I'm going to give him a C. I'm sorry, Michael Rose. Out of the centre-backs this year, he's probably been the worst, and I don't mean he's been bad, I just mean he hasn't been the best compared to Hyam. I think Hyam's been better than him, I think McFadzean's been better than him, and Ostergaard's been better than him. No disrespect to Michael Rose, I definitely want to keep him. I think he is a good centre-back, but I just don't think it's been an amazing season. I don't think he chipped in with any goals. He got a couple of own goals, which is a bit frustrating, just a bit unlucky really, but he's a good player. I'd keep hold of him, and like I say, we'll see what he can do next season. Now, next up, we've got the centre-back, which for me has been the best centre-back this season. We don't own him, but we had him on loan, and he's just quality. Leo Ostergaard, he is definitely getting an A. Some people might say he's the player of the season. I suppose he could be, because he is just that good. But for me, he's going to get an A. I think Leo Ostergaard has been so solid. His goal at Rotherham, how crucial was that in the end? But obviously, his defensive work rate as well is just fantastic. How good is he in the air, by the way? And all of our set pieces this year just seem to be Hamer drifting a ball over to the back post where Leo Ostergaard always won his header. And he's just very good, isn't he, Leo Ostergaard? Another player we need to try and get back next year. But yeah, I don't know, because his price tag and wages would be very high. And then we've got 2 players left, Callum O'Hare and Tyler Walker. Callum O'Hare, for me, is the player of the season. I think a few people would agree with that. Like I said, some people might put Ostergaard as the player of the season. Some people might put someone else. But I'm going to put Callum O'Hare because he is just so good, isn't he? He's definitely our best asset at the club. I think his price tag will shoot up loads over the next coming years. We need to hold on to him. We so need to hold on to him. Obviously, the biggest priority for me is holding on to Mark Robbins. But after that, holding on to Callum O'Hare, because he is just so good. Assists, goals, he's got it all. And he's just such a talented footballer, isn't he? I just love him. And then last, we've got Tyler Walker. Oh, God, I don't want to give him a B, but I think I'm going to have to. I'm going to give Tyler Walker a B. He's been okay this year. He's been fairly decent. He's been a bit inconsistent though. I think at times he's been pretty solid. His finishing is very, very good. But sometimes he's just looked a little bit uninterested. But look, it's his first season with the club. He's settled in okay. I think next year he could really push on. He's still fairly young, Tyler Walker. We've seen him score loads of goals for the likes of Lincoln and Mansfield down in League One and League Two, and I definitely think he can cut it in the Championship because, like I say, on his day he can score quite a few goals for us. So there you go, Tyler Walker's going to get a B, and that is that. So then, guys, that wraps up today's video. That is my opinion on all of the Coventry City players from this season. Get your opinions down below. I'm sure you've all got different opinions. Who is your player of the season? Who would you put in A, B, C or D? That's my opinion. Like I say, Callum O'Hare for me has just been fantastic. My player of the season, but as a whole, the squad needs to come in for a lot of credit. So does Matt Robbins, so does AD Vivash, and all of the coaching team, everyone that's helped Coventry City stay up this year, because it has been a fantastic first year in the Championship. That's it from me, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Peace out.